A very good morning from the sports desk. South Africa are very much in 50-over mode going into the second one-day international against India, set to start in a short while. But the series is also helping the team finalize their plans for the T20 World Cup. South Africa are testing out a few on-field tactics which could be useful for the 20-over showpiece.
Yeah, I think in terms of plans, like I said, it gives you a prolonged period to try it for before, normally it's only 2 or 3 overs at the death. Now you've got 4 or 5 overs to bowl. It also gives Temba opportunity to try various combinations with the bowling lineup and things on the field. So I think it's good preparation, just a bit of a longer format, but still mimicking the same intensity of T20 cricket.
In Formula One, chaos engulfed the start of the Japanese Grand Prix on its first return since 2019, of course because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Rain wreaking havoc at Suzuka, and AlphaTauri driver Pierre Gasly was left fuming after passing a tractor at speed during the brief safety car period. The FIA releasing a statement faulting Gasly for speeding during the red flag, which he shouldn't actually be doing. Now, the race has resumed after a long delay due to the rain. For more on this, we are joined, of course, by our motorsport experts, Lufefe Mayekiso and racing champion Mashobonke Sipuka. Of course, we are bringing both of them in. Usually we have them, one at a time, but we're bringing them both in because we are building up to what we anticipate to be the championship winning race today, where Max Verstappen could potentially clinch his second world title. A very good morning to you, gentlemen. Lufefe Mayekiso, a very good morning to you, as well as you, Mashobonke Sipuka. Lufefe, I'm going to start with you on this one. I imagine you are watching the race right now, which I think it took about almost 2 hours, if not 2 hours, to restart again after it had stopped at 3 of the 53 laps that we are expecting at Suzuka. I mean, what kind of race can we expect on a wet surface, with a lot, of course, that has already happened in just the 3 laps?
Oh, morning, Murena. You can hear me clearly, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we're very disappointed that the race took so long to start because as far as I could see, the conditions were not as treacherous as though you can't race. So we're disappointed, but now we're glad to see there's only about 14 minutes left because obviously there's a 4-hour allocation for the time that the race can commence. So yeah, we're just watching now the closing stages.
Chops, I mean, you would have anticipated, at least people that perhaps don't follow Formula One as in-depthly as yourself and Lufefe, you would have anticipated, like you see in football or even in cricket for that matter, that the game can be postponed or abandoned for the day and maybe rescheduled for another time. Given that next week, Sunday, there is no race, could it have been a case of the Grand Prix being moved to next week, perhaps to accommodate the rainy conditions?
Not really. I just think what has happened is that they needed to make a call whether they were going to continue with the race under the treacherous conditions. In my view, they're not so treacherous. But in any event, now they're carrying on with a little bit of time that's left over according to their allocation. But that being said, I think these guys are gladiators. Everybody comes and watches them. Lewis Hamilton gets paid $40 million a year. They should go out there and drive the cars and see if the conditions are actually as bad as they seem. So one mistake that they do make, they take a safety car, which is a total different car in relation to a Formula One car, to be able to assess whether the conditions are suitable or not. So I just think in wet conditions, they should probably use last year's race car and give it to a racing driver to assess whether the conditions are drivable or not. Because a lot of it goes into it, and a lot of people become so disappointed with all that they have to come and watch only 20 minutes, having paid quite a lot of money to be there.
Lufefe, there was a conversation that was being had by some of the analysts, of course, during that very long break of the red flag, that there should be, a tractor, if they're going to be using a tractor to getting the damaged cars off the track, a tractor that has got brighter lights, so that when you have an incident, or at least to avoid an incident like what we saw with Pierre Gasly, who was speeding during the red flag when he wasn't supposed to be, and he was saying that he wasn't seeing the tractor in front of him. So could that be a matter that needs to be looked at by the FIA, that you need to be putting on a tractor in those kinds of conditions that has bright enough lights for the drivers to see exactly what it is they're dealing with?
Yes, most definitely, especially considering what happened to Jules Bianchi here at the circuit, because he lost his life having hit a tractor during the safety car period. So you would have thought that there are more safety procedures being implemented by the FIA, and it's unfortunate that we saw such an incident. And you saw Pierre Gasly was so upset after the safety car came out, you know?
Chops, let's talk about the race now, because there is a title that is dependent on this particular Japanese Grand Prix. Max Verstappen needs to firstly clock the fastest lap, if he can even do that, but also needs to make sure that he wins this race. And all the other permutations, if he is to achieve those two things, fall out of the window. Can that be done? Can we see the reigning world champion making it 2 titles in a row?
Most definitely. I think what we're left with now is just a few minutes to see whether Max Verstappen is going to be able to do it. We've seen over the weekend he's been able to deliver superb times as within his Red Bull package. But the problem is, or the challenge is with the Ferrari should actually, in these conditions, be much quicker than the Red Bull, because geometrically they've set up the car with an aggressive downforce package to be able to go through corners much quicker. So I can foresee Max winning it here, and Leclerc just taking all the necessary precautions not to throw the car away. They've had a very bad luck this season.
I'm going to leave this question with you, gentlemen, the two of you, the same question. Lufef, I'm going to start with you to say, what lessons do the FIA take from this particular race? Because this is an incredibly disappointing race, not only for us who are watching it so many countries away, but also for the people that paid this money, as Bashobanke was saying, paid a lot of money to be on that track, to stay on that track in this wet weather, and they don't get much of a race, especially because it's a race where Max Verstappen is winning the title. What can the FIA take in terms of lessons from today's situation?
For me, I think there should be contingency plans in place. So, for example, if the race is not able to proceed today, then maybe they should consider doing it the following day, like tomorrow on Monday, because people have traveled, obviously, long distances to go and attend the Grand Prix. We woke up at 4 a.m. to be here to watch the race, and we've just been sitting here listening to all the team principals talk. So I think they should consider that.
Chops, what does the FIA do to make sure that they avoid something like this again?
Well, more importantly, they've got rain tires, to say the least. So as a starting point, they should have taken the drivers, got into the cars after the safety car had done a couple of laps, and driven the race and allowed the drivers to test for themselves to see whether it was possible or not. The issue with visibility, where there's mist on the track, it then becomes a bit dangerous. So if you've taken some of the other racing conditions with other drivers who have come off, like Gil Bianchi, who passed on the circuit, it was very treacherous at that time, but they allowed the drivers to race. So I just think they need to understand that drivers should actually make that call according to what they see, because the man on the lead at times is given the opportunity to race in treacherous conditions. If it's really treacherous, he picks up his hand and they call it and they cancel the race. So to Lufefe's point, if they run it the following day, contractually, there's no time slots that are allocated within the broadcasting houses for that. So they need to then revisit those contracts to ensure that there are time slots that would actually prevail or be postponed to allow them to race. But I just think primarily these guys are gladiators. That's what people come pay to see what they're doing. They should just get into the cars and drive them. And if it's not drivable, it's not drivable. But under the conditions I've been witnessing, those cars are still drivable.
It's unfortunate that this is the kind of conversation we're having on a day where we're supposed to be talking about, hey guys, Max Verstappen has clinched the title with a couple of races to go. But I suppose this is what makes Formula One the beautiful sport that it is, is that you'd never expect what exactly is going to be happening. But thank you very much, gentlemen. And please try and enjoy the very last couple of minutes left of this particular race. That, of course, is racing champion Bashobonke Chops Sepuka and the founder of MotoZar TV, of course, and motor analyst Lufefen Levenkosi Mayeki. So we're going to be leaving